What up, everybody? You're now tuned into Candid Conversations, back again with another live stream. And I'm going in this week, man. I got a bunch of people lined up, a couple of guests, man. It's going to be a spectacular week this week. But to kick it off with this special show right here, man. This is somebody I've known for, my entire life. I mean, you knew my mom way before I was even born, So you knew me in the womb, as they say,
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But I appreciate you for coming on and joining me and taking this time out, man.
Well, I'm honored, man. Like I say, you are a nephew to me. Ain't no liker, but you are a nephew, and I've seen your growth, and I've seen the accomplishments of your life, and I've seen the challenges of your life. When you went through a rigorous surgery and all that stuff as a young boy, and I remember we took a church trip or something, and you still was right along with everybody else, and I'll never forget when me and your mom became best friends. We would hang out together, and folk would ask you, "Where your mama?" And you said, "With that Dwight." That was your key signature. And you was a little boy. Your grandma bought you a watch. Yeah. And folk used to ask you, "Well, what time is it, Brandon?" And you used to say, "Time to get saved." I remember all of that. So, and you had a phenomenal grandmama. Your grandma and your grandfather were both major entrepreneurs in our community. They are the epitome. So I know greatness is coming to you. They were the epitome of generational wealth and leadership. So you come from good stock. So I'm honored to be on and just to show my love and support to you, man, and to be a help to anything I can do to help push the vision and make the vision grow. I'm here. So.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that, man. It's crazy because people from I guess like the people who know me from back in the day, especially Pastor Eichelberger and his church, people at his church, that's church my grandfather went to, they remember that. And people at All People Church, International, of course, they remember that. It was like you used to have your little Mickey Mouse watch, walking around, telling everybody, ask you what time it is, say it's time to be saved, man. Yeah, those were the days, man. My grandmother, Mardella Hooks and Robert Hooks and Mardella Hooks, grandmother and grandfather instilled, so much in me. One of the things that I think I took from them the most, and I think that's what the majority of us in the family took from, is work ethic. Those were the two of the hardest working people that I've ever seen. My grandmother, she jack of all trades. I don't think it was anything that she couldn't do, that she put her mind to when she wanted something to accomplish. I remember, I think they had to raise like $10,000 or something like that. Man, she was fish frying, selling Mary Kay, working at the airport, sitting for old people, you name it, man. Baking, selling baked goods. It was endless. And then my grandfather, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who was around the city at the time he was the superintendent who was not impacted by him in some type of way.
Exactly. He was indeed a chief, a soldier, a real leader, an extraordinary. You come from, like I said, you come from a great background. So ain't no if and doubt about it, Brandon. You're destined for greatness. It's in your blood. It's in your blood, man. So, and I appreciate it. And I see your mom is on. Happy best friend day, buddy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw that picture you guys posted. She don't even look like that no more. She been on this grind, man. You see it. Look at her face.
I don't even want to talk about it because both you and her done passed me.
Hey,
everything y'all lost, I done found, but I'm gonna get it back.
Hey, I was on the phone. I was on the phone with my sister Chelsea, and she was looking at my shoulders and up here. And she's like, "Oh my God, this stuff has changed." I said, "I'm eating right, putting in the work, and I want to get this weight off me, man. I have to, because this would not be pretty at 40 if I'm still this size." So I was like, I gotta get it off me. I gotta get it off me.
Yeah, and the older you get, it harder you get. Look at us.
Man, it's hard. So, it's hard. So, man, so let's talk about it. So let's talk about you and your life. So how did you get your start in ministry?
Okay. Well, I'm a fourth generational preacher. I'm fourth generation clergy. I came from a long line of preachers and all that. My great grandmother, Kelly Ruth Henry, was a missionary that traveled from the Florida to, I think often she would do some work in Jamaica. I remember her doing house meetings. And then my great grandmother on my grandmother's side was big
Mhm.
in the Baptist church. Estella Mills, she was big with the Eastern Stars and the Baptist church and all of that stuff. So it just came on down the line. And then as I began to grow in ministry, so many other things begin to cultivate with ministry. The music developed with the music, the arts developed, so all of that kind of bridged itself in my life and destiny is already building our life. God has already written us. He's branded.
Yeah.
He's already written every note, jot, and tittle of our life. We're reliving, or we're living a script that has already been written, and
Yeah.
those are the things that God has just put into my life. And when I embrace ministry, I also embrace my purpose. When I
Yeah.
embrace my purpose, it also sets the pillar and the steps for my destiny. So that's how I did that,
Yeah.
with the Lord's help.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do it on my own, man. I didn't do it on
Yeah.
my own,
Yeah,
and
man.
like we said earlier tonight, I thank God for my village, my village, not just my family, but all of those people that I met along the way, including your grandmother and your grandfather, who helped build and push me. Your grandmother was one of my key supporters in ministry. When I first embraced ministry, licensed at All People, my first ministerial license came from All People. She was my number one cheerleader, as if I was her son.
Mhm.
And your grandfather, if I would have did a CD or a record while he was living, he would have sold at least 20,000 of them for me,
Mhm.
because he believed in my gift. And when you have people in your village that pushes you and believe in you, it makes your destiny and purpose a little bit better. So that's the truth.
Yeah. I just we just came from Orlando, Memorial Day weekend. We was with the family and some of our extended family. And I talked about, my uncles and my aunt, and my mom over there, and we were talking about it, and I said that's the one thing that bothers me a little bit is that, Mardella and Robert are not here to see this, and what I'll become. And they said, well, they see it. I say, yeah, but it's different to have them here in body, not just in spirit.
Yeah,
But I do know that they're proud because no matter
yeah,
what I did, no matter what I accomplished, they were there.
yeah,
Those were, I mean, two pillars in this community, man. It's, what they brought is unmatched in my
yeah.
in my opinion, because they helped
Exactly.
shape me and so many others, just like from them to from Alexander Temple to All People to the Eichelbergers, Pastor Eichelberger, his church. Those are places where I spent a majority of my youth at, and those places helped shape me into what I am today. And I know you remember our that you brought it up, the traveling choir. We went to Sarasota. We sung in the Wiz. A lot of people don't remember us singing in the Wiz, man. That was some good times, man. We
Yeah,
sung in the
yeah.
Wiz, man. I'll never forget that experience.
You have been a part of my life and my village since, like you said, you were a child, and those things cultivate you. When you get to be my age, almost approaching 50, your mom's, she's a little older than me, but you'll look back at what you saw us do and say, they did
Yeah,
it, I can do it. But I
yeah,
can take it to a whole nother greater level. Let me just piggyback on something you said about your grandparents being gone and stuff like
hmm,
that. There, it's a controversial thing in the Christian church or in religion now that
hmm,
people are arguing. But once they pull back the layers of the truth, then you'll see that over in Africa and over in the other countries, where they thought we were savages and did not have a God or whatever,
yeah,
we just had God a different way.
yeah,
And one of the ways that were so important to our culture was the power of the ancestors. We wasn't, you're not supposed to praise the ancestors, but in the book of Hebrews says we're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. When our ancestors go on, they give us the force now to keep us
yeah,
living and to keep us moving. Because when they go on, they're pulling for us now in the spirit realm to get up and not to just lay down and die, to just fight your ambition. The reason why you can do what you're doing now is because you're doing it in their strength. And I
yes.
and
I
I had to
I
realize
believe
that.
that.
with my grandmother, because I used to think, God, I wish she was here. And my dad, Lord, I wish he was here. But
Yeah.
now I'm realizing that the greater things that I'm doing now is I'm doing it in their strength, because they're pulling for me too.
Yeah. So like one of and you talking about that, I'm glad you brought that up, because if you remember in Black Panther, they depicted the ancestral plane when T'Challa went back and he got to talk with his father, T'Chaka, and when he had already passed on, and that's him in the ancestral plane. And I think it was a very powerful scene. And it basically talks about what you described, that even though you say you don't worship them, but they're always there with us in strength. They're always there guiding us and talking to us, because I can still hear both their voices to this day. I think that'll never go away. They'll always be with me no matter where I go.
Yeah, and that's the truth. Even in the Bible, there would be some people who died, those people who are scholars in the word, they would say, take my bones and bury my bones with the ancestors, or let my bones lie with my ancestors, because they knew that there's another realm, there's another world. We're all spirit beings having an earthly experience. So
Yeah.
and the more we live, the more stronger we embrace our purpose and our destiny. You can feel the love of those that have gone on
Yes.
before, whether you feel
Oh,
it,
yeah.
naturally or emotionally, or even a visit in a dream, or a familiar smell, or stuff like that. It
Yeah.
reassures you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. Definitely. So, so how long have you been, especially once you started preaching and then you started traveling and doing different convents, going around, and I guess your popularity grew over time. I mean, how long has it been? Like, do you remember the number of churches you've been to,
Oh,
conventions you've been to, and things like that?
uh, Brandon,
It's been a lot. I know it's been a
you done
lot.
stumped me right there.
Mm-hmm.
um, it's been a while, because I didn't start off as a preacher. I started off as an assistant minister of music. Assistant minister Lush, is a minister Reynolds at our church. He just liked teaching the parts, and of course he had to be behind the keyboard. I just started directing the choir, and that opened up the church arena from there. But the thing that opened and cultivated is even in high school, I started doing the arts. I started being a lover of the arts, that cultivated me to reach superior ratings in classical music. I was a classically trained baritone singer, and that opened up scholarships for me. I didn't have to really pay that much for college, because I had a full scholarship at several colleges. I was offered it. So, it just, like I say, I can't go back and pinpoint it. I do know this. I'm a GMWA baby, which is Gospel Music Workshop of America. I got connected to organizations that did what I loved, and I started taking and pulling the choir with me when I would go to the Gospel Music Workshop. And when I would go to the workshop, we would just all enjoy the atmosphere and come on back and display what we learned. You had to, every situation in my life and everything just set me up for the next move. So I can't pinpoint, but I do know currently I preached in just about almost half of the states, not all of them. I got a few more to go, but so but that's it. When one door opened up to the next, and that's all I could say
Yeah.
is when those doors opened up. Some of them I walked through, some of them I crawled through, some of them I just ran through. But I just made it work, man. I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Music is such a powerful tool. I mean, you like you said, you've used it in so many facets of your life, and it's allowed you to get into places that normally might not have gotten into just from music, and then that extended into ministry.
Yeah.
And I would say with ministry, what's one thing about it is whenever you were preaching, I always love to hear your preaching. I don't know if I've ever told you that, because one thing about it is your storytelling ability. I think it's second to none out of all the preachers that I've seen and grew up around and been around over the years, from the old fire and brimstone preachers back in the day, to kind of the new modern preachers who kind of got like a bit of a hip hop flair to them. But your storytelling is second to none. I don't know if anybody's ever told you that.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna give you insight into every other preacher too. It's an art.
Mm-hmm.
Preaching is an art. You have to discover and Bishop Jakes teaches and trains his ministers the artistry of preaching. It's an art, and you got to know the power of words. You have to allow people to visually see what you're saying, and if they can visualize it and see it, that means they can grip it and grasp it. And you have to learn how to be an effective preacher. When you are a good preacher, you know, you can't keep people for a whole hour. You got to get them and grip them, you know. So there's things that I just learned as I go, and I'm still learning. I pray to God that one day he would trust me to be on the stage of Bishop Jakes and some of them other people, you know, some great names. But it's an art, and it's an honor to hear somebody of your generation say that. I do get a lot of young people. I had a young person call me on the way coming home to do this, and she hit me on Messenger, and I preached at a church Sunday, and she said the same thing to you, and that you just said, that I was one of her favorite preachers, and she's in her 20s, and that touched my heart. It really did, you know. So, but I'm humbled at it, and I'm trying to get better. Ooh, I got some friends that oh my God, I feel like wow. I got people that I watched and studied, you know, growing up, famous preachers than myself. Every church I went to, and I wasn't a member of a lot of them, I grafted from those preachers. I used to like Bishop Jones because he preached with authority. He was an authoritative preacher. I love Bishop Eichelberger. Bishop Eichelberger was the most revelatory preachers that I would ever hear, that I ever heard. I love his revelation. You know, I love my aunts, Bishop McCullough. She preached with a cadence, a rhythm. She had and it pulled you in. My aunt, Bishop Everett, she's a teacher. She's not a hooper, you know. And when she teaches, her knowledge will blow your mind. You know, and now Bishop Edward Robinson, who I'm under, he's a historian. He knows history. He knows scripture without even turning the Bible open. He can quote it and stuff. So all of those things fascinated and weave the cloth for me to be what I am in ministry when it comes to the art of preaching.
Yeah. And I know you remember her because you just mentioned her son. But one of my favorites growing up as a kid, because Mardella, she used to listen to him all the time. Back on old 1280 on the radio, we had the little AM FM radio in the kitchen. Essa Mae Jones. Ooh. I used to love listening to her, man. They used to play her sermons on 1280 all the time. And can't remember the other guy. He's a Jones too. But he was like, amen, amen.
Deacon Jones.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
I remember all of that. Yes, goodness. Mother Essa Mae Jones, she pulled a lot of people through spiritually, you know, and like I say, it takes that type of cultivating and stuff to make you who you are, especially a good preacher, you know, and every pastor needs a pastor. So you got to have somebody that you can glean from. If not, it's like pouring from an empty pitcher.
Oh yes, definitely. So now I get why, you know, growing up, because I used to hear it all the time growing up when people talking about that boy gonna be a preacher. He's gonna be a preacher. He's gonna be a pastor. And I won't lie to you. And that's something that I have, you know, I'm like, nah, that's not gonna be me. I wouldn't necessarily say I've ran from it, but you know, I just haven't acknowledged it. But as older I've gotten and getting into doing this, I was like, I see it now. I easily see it. Now, is that one day in my future? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I mean, me and religion and, you know, finding out who I am and finding out my place in this world and, you know, my journey and, you know, my beliefs and things like that, regardless of what I was taught growing up, I got to figure out things on my own and have things make sense to myself. But maybe one day, who knows? I don't know, but I can see it in me already. I do see it. And I know if I decided to commit to it, I could do it.
Yeah. Well, I do know this. The pandemic has really caused people to pull on relationship versus religion, because people could not go into a building. So they developed their own prayer time, their own personal time with God, and it's really cultivated and made a whole change. So like I said, you're not the only one. There's a whole generation that's going to embrace God a whole nother way, you know, and it's not going to be the traditional way, because that has just ushered in a new flair, a new mood.
Yeah, I see that happening now. Fairly often too. Their interpretation of the Bible teachings, because they didn't have the teachings that the teaching that you had is not the same necessarily that I had with preachers today, and then the ones before you, and then going into the future, it won't be the same. But the end result is a relationship with God, regardless of how you get there. Is that having that relationship and cultivating that relationship. And that's just something I believe, even though, my mom always talk about it. I don't go to church as often as I should. And I don't, it's something that, one day that I think that I will most likely get back to it. It's just that right now I have to get comfortable, with it myself. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense or not, but
No,
you know,
it do. For an example, when my dad had gotten saved and got off of drugs, he would come to church with me and my brother because he loved us and he felt like he missed out on so much. So he would come merely out of love, obligation, and
mhm,
relationship,
yeah,
and he enjoyed it. But I would look at him and I would be like, no, something's a little. He's not. There's still some type of disconnect. So one day I
mhm,
went to him and I said, Daddy, are you happy at the church with us? He said, oh yeah, I'm with my boys. I miss y'all. And I said, Daddy, we love having you with us. And I'm
yeah,
glad that you're with us. We're honored that you're with us. But I need you to do this. Go where you can grow. And when I said that, it broke the ice. And he was like, yeah, you know what? I got some friends I used to party with and go out and hang out with. They got saved too. And they all go to Philippian and they all support each other. And we get together, they get together. And and it's really good. The fellowship. I said, go over there. And you know what, Brandon, that was the best advice I ever gave to my daddy, because from there, he grew in the Lord. It was other people that had the same testimony. They cultivated him. And then the greatest accomplishment from that was seeing them walk my daddy down that aisle and make him a licensed ordained deacon. The tears
yeah,
just started flowing. He was so happy being at his church home because he was growing there. And
yeah,
too often, Brandon, we people make the mistake of being at a church because your grandmama paid a pew there, your daddy built the fellowship hall, your granddaddy used to be the the trustee. When you
mhm,
really need to go where you can grow.
yeah,
That's the same thing. With you. Your parents have done their part. They trained you up in the way of the Lord. But the Bible says when you're old, you won't depart. But the rest of life is between you and God. So I tell people finding a church home is so important. Go where you can grow. You don't have to
yeah,
stay at the church where you're. And I realized that with my sister. Me and my brother grew up. We actually grew up apostolic, Jesus only. But then as
yeah,
we begin to grow up, we went our another way. And the same thing with you. You'll find it. You'll
yeah.
find it.
Let's see what your card say. Jakari says, "I believe in a higher power. It's just hard to believe in Jesus." And
Yep.
Jakari, that's not unique to you, Jakari. That's a lot of people.
That's a
It's a lot of
lot of
people who feel that
people,
way.
and they question Jesus, and it's coming up now more than ever. You hear me?
Hmm.
But I pray that your awareness to who Jesus is and what he was and his assignment, Jakari,
Hmm.
I pray that that becomes alive in you. You hear me?
Yeah,
Because so many people has had Jesus presented to them in a way. But if you really want to know him, you'll seek him for yourself, and
yeah,
he'll become alive to you
hmm,
in a way,
yeah,
that where you'll know that he is real. So that's what I tell people. I don't push how I feel down people's throat. I don't push how I feel in their face. I live it. I live
yeah.
it in such a way until they come to me and say, tell me a little more. Even Mahatma Gandhi, you know what he said? You know what he said,
Hmm.
Brandon? He said, I would love to be a Christian if the Christians actually practice the principles of Christ. That's what Mahatma Gandhi said. He said,
Mm.
I love the teachings of Christ, and I would love to be a Christian if Christians actually practice the teachings of the Christ. And when I read that, that blew my mind. That
Yeah,
blew my mind. So I said, instead of people living or taking bits of who they think Jesus is, I want them to see him in me. And
yeah.
so when they see him in me, they'll
Hmm.
look at me and say, I love how you live. I like the way you live your life. And a lot of mistakes that people make is they think preachers are perfect, and we're
Yeah.
not. You know, they
Yeah.
think pastors and leaders are without error. You know, we have a moral, ethical agreement like on any job. You work in security, right?
Yeah.
You have an ethical law that you must abide by.
Yes, I
You know,
do.
you cannot be security and
Mm-hmm.
flirt with the ladies, say dirty
Mm-hmm.
jokes with the common people, because when they see you walk into the room, they should see authority.
Yes, they should.
And it's the same way with preachers. You have preachers who have breached their moral, ethical standard of living, and therefore people have lost hope in preachers. But preachers are not superhuman.
Right.
You know, when I was a teacher, when I taught for 20 years, I could not post certain things on my social life. I couldn't post me, maybe having a cocktail or drink with friends. I couldn't post partying and all of that stuff because children look up to teachers. We were bound by a moral, ethical creed,
Yes.
and it bothers me when people put all that pressure on pastors and people like that. They want them to
Mm-hmm.
live holy so they can put all their sins on them,
Yeah.
not realizing that they're people too,
Yeah.
but for that young person who just made that statement, I pray that you come in contact with somebody that's truly living out the teachings of Jesus so you can see Jesus in another light, in another way, because
Yeah.
the true Jesus hung around undesirables.
Yeah.
He hung
Yeah.
around people, that were not chosen, people that others would look down upon. You hear
Yeah.
me? And this generation is confused because they've seen a misrepresentation of Jesus,
Yeah.
from church people and people who talk about it, you know, and that's the truth.
Yeah. Let's see. Jakar said, "Yeah, I lost hope in the McKissicks. They really put a stain on church form." Oh, yeah. Yeah, the situation with the McKissicks. Yeah. That and it's not and not only that, Jakari. I think a lot of people come into a point, especially no matter what religion you grew up in, you come to a point where you're going to question things. You're always going to question things. As a kid coming up in it, and you had no choice. We had to be the church. We had the noonday prayer, Hallelujah night, Thursday night service, Friday night service, Tuesday night service. Like we had to be in the church. So you couldn't question anything. You just had to be there. But as you get older, you do start to question things. You start to question, is it real? And one of the things that will turn you off is situations like that, is pastors breaching that moral and that ethic code, just or Christians in general who live opposite of what they supposedly teach.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't rely on those things because people are always going to be people. Lie, cheat, steal.
Yeah,
That's what people are going to be.
humans are humans.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, from the president to the pastor to the homeless man to the
Mm-hmm.
millionaire to the pauper to third world country to the wealthiest country. Humans are humans.
Yeah.
And it's just thing. I'm so sorry that the young person has had that negative experience or that disdain. And
Mm-hmm.
all I can say is let's pray for them. Those of us that believe in prayer, that pray that they'll be restored and that they'll walk with Christ and everything will not hinder many others. But for those of you that feel the way that young men do, I pray that you'll be connected with somebody that will restore your hope. Don't live your whole life, in that
Yeah.
shadow of darkness and
Yeah.
uneasiness. Everybody's not like that, so, and we tend to base certain things on an experience. When I heard what Bishop Jake said, it was so powerful. He's a voice of now. Is some things in our life just was what it was, Brandon, an experience. It is
Yeah.
not who we are.
Mm-hmm.
It is not who. There's some dark times in my life. You hear me? And I had to pull myself together and say, okay, Dwight, get yourself together. That's not who you are.
Yeah.
That just happened to you, but it's not who you are. You
Yeah.
can't erase it. What's done is done. Let's get up and let's go forward. But that experience is not who you are.
Yeah.
So
And I'm a firm believer in no matter what, from the best of us to the perceived worst of us, I mean, I don't think certain things make people bad people. I think people are people regardless of the things they do, because it's just something that we do. It doesn't make you good. It doesn't make you bad. People are people, no matter, because they said no sin is greater than the other.
Yeah,
So even though a penalty for stealing is lesser than the penalty for killing someone, the sin is equal. Sin is the same in
yeah,
God's eyes, you know. And so once I saw that, I was like, well, that just means people are people, no matter what they do. Doesn't mean they're good or bad. It just means that there are people and they're flawed. That's all it means to me.
yeah. That's true. And there are issues that this young generation are going to have against the church. You know, there are
Yes.
some issues that they're going to have a lot of questions about, and all I can say is, as I said formerly, find you a congregation of believers, or bodies of believers that believe in the Bible, but also teach the Bible in love. The greatest thing that ever came to us was love. You hear me? And God is a God of love. So
Yeah.
that's what I tell people. I don't have time to fight against others' beliefs, or fight against what other people say and all that other stuff, but I do feel obligated as a representative of the Bible and as a Christian to present you with love, even if I don't agree with it, even if I can think it's
Hmm.
the worst thing in the world. I have to and I have to mean it, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because you can feel it if I don't
Yeah.
mean it. You hear me?
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
have to, and with that same respect, I ask those persons, don't try to conform me. Respect me like I'm respecting you,
Yeah.
because there's a new religion out, and I don't want to, endorse those things that's just teaching so much, and our young men are gravitating to this religion. You hear me? Because
Hmm.
it's telling them things that other people hadn't told them. And
Yeah.
anytime you get a certain level of awareness always brings change. You hear me? When you reach
Yes.
awareness, it pushes you to change. So,
Yeah.
and with that, you got people embracing this, and now they're questioning what they've heard in the past. But one
Hmm.
thing I do know about the Bible, about God, and about Jesus, he's been around throughout the ages. New stuff has come and gone, you know.
Yeah.
But when the water meet the land, and when the rubber meets the road, the Bible and the message of Jesus still stands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. It's and it's funny because as a young man, especially, you're being pulled in so many different directions, because somebody could say one thing and you will have somebody completely debunk whatever somebody said. They'll call out hypocrisies, inaccuracies, and things within it. But one thing I did notice is that, like, once I hit 30, 30 is like a milestone in your life. 30 is like, man, it's like an awakening almost. And after I hit 30, I realized why people cling to religion the way that they do.
Mm,
Because before 30, I mean, I didn't think about death hardly at all. I mean, whether it was me dying or family members dying or anything like that, I didn't think about it. But it seemed like the day after my 30th birthday, death was always right here,
yeah.
because I always thought about it, whether something happened to me or something happening to my loved ones, and realizing that you don't have as much time as you think you have. So what a lot of people do at that stage is they dive deep into it. So they go get ordained, or they go get
Mm,
baptized, or they jump straight into it, sometimes without any knowledge of it or anything, or they doing it out of fear. And I don't think that's necessarily the best thing. Even though you're getting into it, I don't think that's the best thing, because when you do that, I know people, you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. You jump into it, you try to consume it all, then you burn out.
yeah.
And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, oh, well, I thought you was going to be a minister. No, no, I'm not doing that no more. I've seen that. I've seen that a
Mm,
bunch of times, man. But I think that you have to just have your own personal relationship.
yeah.
There's a lot of beliefs that I line up with being a man of God, and how I'm going to walk this earth and live my life. There's just certain things I'm going to do and not going to do. And some of it is the teachers I got as I was younger, and some of it is things I've learned since I've been a man. And they're just merging the two and having my own personal relationship with Jesus, understanding and knowing who he is. And once you understand, he goes going to reveal himself to you. That's
Yeah.
the thing about it. Because I'll say like churches, whatever, but Jesus, the word, it's always revealed itself to me.
Yeah, and you got to understand this, Brandon. You got a teachable spirit. You're willing to embrace the new, and then the part that you know grip and grasp, you hold on to the part that you don't think for you. You learn to put it to the side. As the old people say this way, you eat the meat and spit out the bone.
Bones, yeah,
That takes maturity,
yeah.
So you won't believe every strange thing. You'll get it, see it at a different light and go on, and that leads to a discussion that we were having before we went on, as an example with the comedian Monique. um
Hmm.
you're talking about the young ladies and the bonnets and the pajamas in public. You hear
Yeah,
me? Now, when I first saw her, I'm not saying I didn't disagree with her, because I truly agree with her with the bonnets and the pajamas, but I'm just talking about how this generation thinks.
yeah.
They got offended with her and angry with her when and when I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, why is she using such rough language? She got a good message, Jesus, but what's her choice of words? Lord have mercy." But then
I'm expound on that.
but listen, something hit
Hmm.
me. That's the language of this generation.
I'm so
That's
glad you
the
said that, Dwight.
I said, wait a minute. I said the audience that she's addressing talks that language every 3 seconds, every 5 minutes, that's there. And when I was growing up, my generation, we wouldn't say that around young people. But this
Right.
generation, no, it's a second language to them. It's common to them. So she was talking the dialogue or dialect rather, that would
Hmm.
embrace that generation. And her message was true. Now,
Yeah.
they got on her, they said all this about her. And even I was hurt at some of these rappers, and I loved that we're having this dialogue, because we talked about it in Bible study last night. Pop culture. Pop culture is the mold
Hmm.
or the shape of the culture for now. You hear me?
Yeah.
And some of these rappers that were getting behind these girls, telling them, yeah, and I'm gonna wear my bonnet in solidarity of the bonnet wearers and stuff like that. And I was
I
like,
saw that.
you guys are missing the message. But I love Monique's. I don't know if you saw her rebuttal. Her rebuttal came back. She says, I'm not upset that you all don't want to hear me. That's fine. She said, but to those women that caught on to what I'm saying, she said, all I'm saying, babies, is you're better than a bonnet and pajamas. When you walk out your house that way, they see you in a lesser light. You hear
Yes, they
me?
do.
They don't take you serious. And she
Yeah.
says, that's all I'm saying. She said, and this is what hit me, Brandon. She says, when I was younger,
Hmm.
two people did it to me. She said, I will always respect two women who corrected me. And she said, that was Patti LaBelle and Margaret Avery. She said,
Hmm.
those women pulled me to the side, corrected me on a matter. And she said, my life was never the same since then. She said, I will always respect those two women. And you know what? And Monique was only doing out of love what was corrected to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's sad when you have a generation that can't take love and correction, and they just want to do what they want to do. And even I like how Ricky Smiley came back. He says, well, if y'all canceling Monique, y'all better start canceling me too, because
Yeah.
she was the truth. And it's
Yep.
sad that and and we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna let you lead me into the next section, but I gotta say this culture is building their life on the music, on on those things that are popular. You hear me?
Reality
But
TV.
yeah, and reality TV, which really isn't real. Reality
No,
TV. I
it's
hate
a
to
script.
upset anybody. I work in production. Reality is scripted.
Hmm.
They let them go on and do what they want to do, but it's the editor that makes a story. You hear me?
Yes.
When they go in and they edit things and cut things, it makes it look like those women don't get along, those women can't stand each other, and it becomes a whole storyline. So that's not real. That's not
Yeah.
reality TV. That is scripted, because they're
Yeah.
editing. So people got to understand that. But this is the thing. You got people who are doing music that they don't even themselves live by. There's a
Yeah.
particular artist. Uh, there's a particular artist. and I want to call her name, but her song has an acronym, but since I'm
Mhm.
not in church, I could use it. WAP.
AP. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Yeah, yeah, Dwight.
But
Yeah, yeah.
this artist talks about that, and it's about the female genitalia and it being so good and it's the best. And this artist talks
Mm-hmm.
about, but when her daughter walks in the room, she turns that song off.
Yes.
She don't let her daughter listen to that's number. And then you talk about this, but you and your husband is constantly having marital problems.
Yeah.
He's constantly being unfaithful and loyal to you. And you see how that has cultivated this generation, so they don't even know what to believe.
Yeah.
They're living a fictitious life,
Mm-hmm.
based on what they see. And look at the young man with the controversial song, what's his name, Nas X, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh that
Yeah.
the video called me. When I saw the video,
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, have mercy to Jesus.
Yeah.
This is what we're dealing with. But he did that song number one because he wanted to make money, and
Yeah.
controversy makes money. And then he
Yeah.
did that song out of a rebuttal for something he experienced in his past, and people
Yes.
saying things about his lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and he don't realize that in artistry and in the record industry, you're nothing but a pawn.
Yeah.
They don't care anything about your future. They don't care
Mm-hmm.
anything about how you're going to look uh, in the homes or in the eyes of people. They don't care. They just want you to make them money. You know,
Yeah.
and that song made them so much money.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
care. They don't care that 20, 15 years down the line, he may have a major backlash from all of that. They don't care that they're living for the now. And this generation has to know that now always sets you up for next. And now is never permanent. And like I said in Bible study last night, stop making permanent decisions in a temporary time. You ain't gonna always be 23. You ain't gonna always be 30
Yeah.
if you keep living. Like my grandma said, keep laying down and getting up. Every day, Brandon, we getting closer
Yeah.
to death. All of
Oh
us.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
So
my take on
we're
that.
we're in a microwave society, Dwight. I talk about it all the time. I noticed it with athletes a few years back when I was coaching football, high school football, and I noticed how the athletes were, and then noticing how the college athletes were and the professional athletes. I said, man, we're in the age of the diva. We're in the age where the kids now, if you hit them with the my way or the highway, they call them the Uber and they taking the highway. They're not going for it now. You're gonna have to come better than that.
Wow.
But one of the things you said about dialect and wondering how she talks to people, I had two young boys that I was with the Memorial weekend, and they're a little unruly. You could tell they need guidance, like they lack male leadership and things like that. And when I went to address them, I talked just like them, cursing, in words, all of that. And you know what they did? As soon as I did it, they were all ears. All ears. That they were ready
Wow.
to listen to anything that I had to say. Had I not come at them that way, they would have dismissed and probably anything that I said. But I can tell as soon as I did that, boom, here they come. They're listening to what I had to say. And I was like, why are you talking to them like that? I said, because that's how they talk and that's what they're going to respond to. And sure enough, that's what they did, and it's crazy with the whole bonnet thing, the whole bonnet gate with Monique. It's a true thing. That's why you've never seen me with sagging pants. You've never seen me with a wife beater on. You probably never seen me with a wave cap on. Like
Mm-mm.
there's just those certain things that you're not going to see. I'm dressed how you want to be addressed. I can't go out and about. Even before I had my own brand and me representing myself, I always represented my family.
Yeah.
And there's a certain way you had to purport yourself. Mardella and Robert Hooks wasn't going for it.
Mm-hmm.
Robin wasn't going for it. Dwayne isn't going for it. Those people, my family were not going for those things. But now it's different.
Wow.
Hey, I told Sean the other day, because I do shows with Sean, and I told Sean the other day, I said, Sean, we live in a time where people want Sunday dinner results, but they want hot pocket instruction.
Yeah.
So I was like, you're not going to get that. They complain about the quality of said hot pocket. I'm like, yo, that only take 2 minutes to make. So you're going to get the quality that how long took. That's the quality you're going to get. If you want real quality, it's going to take time. It's
Yeah.
going to take time. And in order for you to get there and to get that time, like you said, this is the now, but it sets you up for next. So my mom told me about Ricky Smiley. He said he met two young ladies who took a picture with him. They had their bonnets on. He was telling them, you shouldn't be doing that, because he said, what if I'm a record exec? What if I'm in movies? What if I'm producer? What if I'm this? And I'm looking for a certain look. I'm looking for people. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. And I see you and you fit what I want, but you got these bonnets and these pajamas on. I'm going to pass you up. I'm going to pass you up. That's a opportunity that's gone. Young people, their rebuttal today about that is, well, it just wasn't for me then. And I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? Would you not want to correct what it is so you can get that opportunity instead of saying that, well, if I didn't get it, it wasn't for me? No.
But you said a great analogy. Keep that analogy about what was that? The hot pocket and
they want Sunday dinner. Yeah, they want to put in hot pocket effort and get Sunday dinner.
But guess what? The nutritional values are different. You're gonna get all the unhealthy things with the hot pocket versus a Sunday dinner. You know, and they don't realize it. It's a quick death. Eating things that are not healthy and indulging in things that are not relevant and solid. Even with my journey with weight loss and everything, one of my friends that I talked to, who's a personal trainer, he said, Dwight, you're doing everything physically. He said, but bodies are built in the kitchen. That's where the true work is, and that requires discipline. And with this generation, there's a lack of discipline. I wish I'm gonna pass you this quote when we hang up. I'm gonna give, because I know you can kill it. I know you could work with it. You're a great guy when it comes to topics of discussion. He is he's the descendant of the what's the royalty of Dubai. They interviewed him and they talked about his great grandfather is the origin or the founder of Dubai, the king or whatever they have it over there. And he says, today I drive a Mercedes or something like that. He says, but my father before me drove, he gave some other car that was decent. He said, but my great grandfather rode a Campbell. He said, now my grandchildren will probably drive a Maybach. And then he says, my great grandchild will probably be in a Bentley. He says, but my great grandchild, he's going to end up going back on a Campbell. And I said, why? Back riding camels. I said, that don't make no sense. Some said, keep reading. He says, because suffering produces strength. He says, and the less you eliminate suffering, the weaker the generations become. And I'm going to send that to you, because the way he said it was like, oh my God.
So there's a quote that's similar to what he's saying. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create soft men. So, and that's the cycle we're in right now. Easy times have created soft men. No, and I don't badger men like to badger men, or talk bad about men, but we have to be honest about the state of men today. The state of men today, like, I mean, I already know the life my grandfather led, man, we'll be out in T-minus 2 seconds. I mean, you couldn't walk a day in his shoes, and the things that he did, he grinded for, and the things that he went through. I mean, he went through real racism, unlike today, where it's pretty much internet bullying or somebody saying the N-word at a stoplight or something like that. Just roll you end up and drive off. I mean, it is what it is. But the way things are today, me and Sean did a show where we said we're lacking masculinity today. And it's not all because, times are easy. Masculinity is something that's been seen as something as bad because they call it toxic. Men being men has been called toxic. You had one of the was it Procter and Gamble, who's over Gillette, one of the most famous, most lucrative businesses when it comes to razors and skincare and hair care for men. And they put out a commercial attacking masculinity. And I'm talking about men en masse stop buying Gillette razors. They stop investing in Procter and Gamble companies and products, and they lost billions seemingly over a couple of weeks or so, because you vilifying men just being men, that's a problem. They want men to be all in the fields. They want us with fingernail polish on our nails. They want us in dresses. They want us with makeup on. They want us all in our feelings and emotional. And for the men who do that, cool on them. But that's not the norm. That's not what all men are. Some men are like that, and we accept them for who they are. But pushing that on all men and for all men to be that way, no.
Yeah.
That right there. Allow somebody to be themselves. You want me to conform to something, and you want me to think a certain way and say certain things, and you're going to cancel me if I don't. That's the issue I have with our culture today.
Yeah. It's that conversation is more than an hour segment.
Oh man,
there's an imbalance even in the structure of women. And femininity and the independence of women. When you get a bunch of women who say, I don't need a man, or I can get this on my own, I can achieve this on my own. I even don't need a man for conception. I could just get me something from the sperm bank, and I can build my own family and all that. That even chops down on masculinity. It chops away on masculinity as well. But that's a whole nother story. And when we start dealing with men and masculinity, we got to understand too, we got to embrace the toxic side of masculinity. Because there are some guys whose fathers and uncles were so brutal with masculinity it made them numb to the love language. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with a man showing affection to his children, even his own son. But if you do that in society, especially the African American culture, they think something is wrong with you. You hear me? And it's sad. It's sad because you still should be able to grab your son and hug him and kiss him on the forehead and and stuff like that. And it don't be wrong. But you do that in certain environments and neighborhoods, they're gonna beat you down. And you got men who mask their pain because they saying if I show my pain, then I'm not being a man. And they teach that to us as boys. Riding a bicycle, playing football or whatever, you fall and you hurt yourself severely. You better not cry. You better not show no pain.
Throw some dirt on it.
Yeah, so you're masking all of that. So when you grow up and you really do that and you're really hurting, then you move to drugs. You move to illicit, excessive sex. Things that give you relief. You hear me? Because you're masking how you feel. So we got to talk about the toxic side of that too. You hear me? And that's a broad show. That's a good show too. So I want you to hold on to that and interview men from different perspectives when it comes to masculinity, so we can get a whole picture.
See, and Ms. Lisa says masculinity is lacking because the fathers have been removed from the home. That's part of it too. That's part of fathers being removed from the home. I was telling a buddy of mine, he was talking about Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon, he has like his fifth child on the way, a set of twins, fourth and fifth child on the way. And I told him, I said, man, he's creating single mother homes. And I said, me coming from a single mother homes, I can't respect that at all. I said, because you can't, I don't care how much money he has, you can't replicate a dad being in the home every day. Me having regular access to said dad, like there's nothing you can do to replace that, because there's going to go lacking somewhere.
And it creates an off balance in every area. Because mothers teach compassion. Mothers teach a whole lot of character is built really basically through the mother, But fathers teach boundaries, Even if you don't have a dad, there's somebody, a man in your life that taught you a boundary skill, and that's the truth. And that is just so true. And when you are a single mother, you can't teach a man, and I know that's been controversial for years, but it's the truth.
It's the truth.
You can't really teach a man how to be a man. You need to ask God to show or send somebody in his life. Even statistics tell you the most successful mentorship between a mentor and a mentee is those that are of like sex, like race, like gender and stuff like that. therefore there's no deviation. They said this
Mm-hmm.
person is just like me, and they have achieved the goals that I want to go do too. So they feel like they can do it. But that's the truth.
Yeah.
So you
You see
got a lot going
O'Neal.
on.
See, we got O'Neal here. He said, "My grandfather rode a camel. My father rode a camel. I drive a Mercedes. My son drives a Land Rover.
Yeah, that's
His
it.
son will drive a Land Rover, but his son will ride a camel."
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah,
that's how it is. And we're right now, like it's obvious and it's all around us. You have to see it. We're headed for another economic collapse. I mean, because after the pandemic, women lost a ton of money during the pandemic. It's at $800 billion or so, and the economy has survived because women spend money. And that's another thing about the femininity. And femininity is a superpower for women, and they bill it as a bad thing for a woman to be feminine today. But in order for a woman to operate in a man's world, she has to be masculine to a certain degree. I mean, think about any woman who's any higher ranking boss, a go-getter, she's all these things, business owner. She has to have some type of masculine traits in order to achieve the top of the top. It's very rare you're going to see a feminine, truly feminine woman achieve those things, because she's going to have to step out of femininity from time to time. You know, say I told my mom when she first got that job at the rehabilitation center. I forgot the one on, was that 45th Moncrief, whatever
yeah.
that is. I can't remember, but you know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
When she first got a job there, and you know, she was over people. She hadn't really been over people before that. But I told her, I said, it's better for them to think that you will be on wheels than to think they can roll over you and that you soft.
Yeah.
I say you got it, because you know she has to bring out that masculine side, because people are not going to respect it simply because she's a woman. She's not going to command the respect the man gets when he walks into a room for simply being a man. It is what it is, but it's the truth.
Yeah. And you're right. There's so many rules to the game that have been altered and switched and changed, and you
Man,
can't deny it. But I'm nervous. I'm nervous for my nieces and my nephews behind me, because you can see there's so many gray areas and dark
yeah,
areas. Not only when it comes to economics, when it comes to spirituality, and here's the big one: sexuality.
man,
Those are things that are so that need to be addressed and need to be talked
yeah,
about. And even our race as people, because here it is now. There's a mass awareness that is surfacing to the top. All the wrongs and the ills and the evils that have been done to us, that have been packed down for years. Now you can't pack it anymore. This stuff is exploding,
yeah,
and it's got to come out.
yeah.
It's got to come out. But
It's got
how
to
we
come out.
heal, that's a whole
Mhm.
nother. Brandon, that's a whole nother discussion. Because you ever notice, if you cut some doctors know how to make a good incision, so when it heals, the scar is not. You got to really search for where you've been cut. But then you got those that have cut, and next thing you know, it's an ugly scar. It
Yeah,
healed, but it's ugly.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
So
yeah,
how America heal is really, really my prayer.
yeah.
It's a concern. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Trauma, man. Unaddressed trauma, unaddressed mental issues. Because you know, mental health is a stigma in the Black community. We don't get help, and when you don't get help, what do? You self medicate, drugs, alcohol, sex. I mean,
yeah,
that's pretty much what it is. So, knowing that, the only way you can't I can't take anybody seriously if you want to talk about fixing the Black community. I can't take you seriously if you're not trying to get the family back together,
yeah,
because that's
and
the only way.
get the family back together and address the issues that drove us apart. That drove
Yeah.
us apart. We got to
Hmm.
bring them to the table. We got to talk about generation molestation. We got to talk about certain things that happened in the family that they told us, okay, sweep it under the rug. Just let's not even deal with it.
Yeah.
And I know you brought me on to give a religious or a church perspective, but the church has always been the nucleus of the community. The church itself are now going to have to deal with these issues, even as we open back up. we can no longer just go back into a building and have church as usual. You got people now sitting in the pews and the chairs that have experienced trauma.
Yeah.
People who've lost half of their family, people who, when they lost their family, they could not even properly bury their family. There are some people who didn't even get to say goodbye. They didn't even get to see their family member,
Yeah.
so there's absolutely no closure. They did not grieve well. And when
Yeah.
my daddy was murdered, one of the things the therapist told me is you got to grieve well. Grief is a part of life, but you got to learn how to do it well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to learn how to move on with it. So many things that we're going to have to address from the pulpit. If you get back, and I know this may offend some pastors or some clergy that watch it, but it's the truth, and it can't be denied. If you go back into your church and your pulpit doing what you've always done, your church is not going to make it, and it's not going to grow. You hear me?
Yeah.
Because people now realize I got options.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got options, and
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me making a shameless plug, but I do want people to get this book.
That I was gonna use that picture, the
Uh,
one where you got that one. So, but I saw the other one, so I said I
yeah,
use that
no,
picture.
no,
But
no.
I was gonna use that picture.
They can get this one too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got it on hand, but it's a section, and I know it's an hour in, and I got to go, and I know you do too.
Okay.
But I want people to get the section on spirituality, and I want them.
Oh, hold on.
Am I back, man? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you
Okay,
good.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
want them to catch the part about spirituality. You hear me? And please,
Yeah.
please, personal spirituality brings truth, harmony, balance, and peace in our lives. Romans 8:6. Let us know to set the mind on the spirit is life. And when you are spiritually connected to God, you go beyond existing into truly living. And that's the
Yeah.
truth. You hear me? I'm in my 40s, but I did not truly embrace, even growing up into the church, true spirituality until I went through a traumatic experience. And then I had to know God, Brandon, for myself. I had to
Yeah.
know him not as my grandmother's God, not as my mama's prayer answering God, but the God of Dwight. And this is
Mm-hmm.
where we are, and I encourage people to get this devotional. It'll help you. There's a part on it about spirituality.
Okay, so that's how we'll end. Talk about your books and talk about any upcoming ventures or things you got going on.
Well, those people journaling is therapeutic. If you journal, if you write down your feelings, and especially connect journaling with your prayer, I promise you, I could put on it. You'll get quick results, and you'll understand the power of answered prayer and how prayer really works for us. This is a journal. It's called A Minute and a Moment. All the writing is up the front. The rest is the back, talking and praying with God after your personal time. So this is a 30-day devotional, and it's broken up in sections: emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, and there's a section on here for finances as well. All of those areas that I'm still yet growing and moving in. I haven't
Yeah.
mastered anything, but
Yeah.
I'm still yet growing in. But daily, people could catch me on midday, noonday prayer around about 12:30 to 1:30 for about an hour. That has grown. People from all walks of the country in the U.S. come together, and we just pray. And that's it. You could just check my schedule to see what I'm in. I have a prayer clinic in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've been in Philly now for 4 years. Every third Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
at 2 different churches there, based on the size of the service. So you follow my page. I've also had a prayer clinic in Atlanta. That's 11 years. I'm revamping and restructuring it, So I'm also
Mm-hmm.
in Atlanta at least once a month, sometime, doing services. At any time you just want to connect with me, go to Dwight Follins Ministries or Noonday Prayer Warrior page, and my schedule will be put up there. All right.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you so much for coming on and spending some time with me. I think one thing about doing this, and I noticed that it's therapeutic, man.
It
Because
is.
it's
It truly
you
is.
know, yeah,
You're on a good road. Keep it up. Consistency really works, and
yeah,
we're not to despise small beginnings.
yeah.
So and I pray.
Grassroots.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I pray expansion to you, that this would lead to something bigger, and something bigger will land you to something greater.
Yeah.
That's my prayer for you.
Man, I appreciate that. Yeah, make sure y'all follow Dwight. Is it just Facebook that you're on?
No, you could go to www.dwightfollins.com. They can go on there, and I do have a YouTube channel. I gotta update it. I'm gonna hire somebody to help me with media, because this stuff is overwhelming, Brandon. I need
I
to
know
you. I need to follow your name, but it's just so much coming at me at one time. But I am on YouTube. You can, and if you want to follow me on IG, is Elder Dwight. I'm on there as well. So
okay. Okay,
right.
man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned. I got more shows coming this week. But man, this was a great talk. And this is something that I think is needed. More talks. I have a lot of guys who hit me up and say, especially when we talking issues with men, because one thing about men is that men internalize. And you got to have spaces, male spaces, where you can let those things out, because I would say tell anybody, whether it's your spouse or just a girlfriend, she's not meant for you to emotionally dump on. You can share things with her, but emotionally dumping on her, no. That's where men in the community, male spaces, and men in your circle, those are the places where you need to go, because the only people who can identify exactly what you're going through as a man is other men.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's the truth, man. So keep doing what you're doing, and don't be afraid to tap into the unknown. Folk don't like it, but bring in those that are controversial.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Bring in those that'll shake things up. That's how you get your numbers up.
I want to interview Candace Owens one day. I know people, they hate Candace Owens, because she on the right, she a Republican, she all this stuff, but hey, she has some perspective when she talks about the Black community. It's some things that she's right about. You have to, you'll be blind. You're blind if you can't see some of the things she says is true things, man. Yeah. So, and I think that's what anybody, say, eat the meat, spit out the bones. That's just about what anybody, with any content they put out, with anything they say, there's going to be bits and pieces of truth to a lot of things, and regardless of who it comes from.
That's true. That's true. So keep doing what you're doing, man. And hey,
appreciate that, O'Neal.
Next time I'll come on. Yeah, tell O'Neal, give me $20.
Oh man, that's the working man right there.
I know it.
That's the working man right there.
That's Mr. Rockefeller. O'Neal probably own hotels and houses, and they ain't telling us nothing.
Ain't telling nobody nothing, man. Ain't telling nobody nothing. And you got $8 shirts on and $6 shorts.
Come on, that's him. That's him. Got my bank account sitting under his.
My brother.
Got so much money.
Man.
Teacher.
Well,
love you, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. I appreciate you, man. But hey, so we out of here. Oh, O'Neal say, hey, it's for my family. And Tisha say, well, Tisha on here too. She talking about where at?
The Rockefellers. Tell Tisha.
Hey, it's for my family.
Stop hiding their money. They don't invite me to nothing else no more. But guess what? I'm gonna bust the door down. I'm coming anyway. Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna be right there. We're gonna be right there.
Yeah. I love them. I love both of them. I'm super proud of them too. Tisha and O'Neal. You are our family, and I love it. Thank you, Lisa Reed. I like that.
Yeah. Great topic. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, I'll be back. I'll be bringing.
O'Neal
Talks. Oh Lord.
Yeah. He's talking about he done. All right, y'all. I know you busy. Got to get out of here. So, man, I appreciate y'all. Like, share, and subscribe. Hey, stay tuned all week. I got more stuff coming, man. I appreciate y'all. But until next time, man, I'll talk to y'all later.
All right.
Peace out.